What is widely considered as the greatest left turn in music history. When I say those words, I could be talking about one album and one album only, and that's Kid A by Radiohead. Kid A is a musical landscape and an experience that you can get sucked into, and I'm here to talk about what I love about it and to break down my interpretation of it and what I think it stands for. I don't want to waste your time. This album is a masterpiece and I want to get into it and talk about why I love it and why it's one of the best albums of the 2000s. I'm gonna spend a bit of time talking about the intro track because I feel like I have a lot to talk about. Straight away, you're hit with a synth sound. Keep in mind, this was what they released straight after OK Computer. I can only imagine how it felt being Radiohead fans. You're used to them doing rock songs with, classical instruments, and the first thing you hear is these crispy clean synths. You hear Thom Yorke's voice glitching as it comes into the song, the drums being digital. It's genuinely an insane switch up. I mean, people don't call it the biggest left turn in music history for no reason. At that point, this phrase is basically overused, but it's still valid. We see more repetitive lyrics, the focus being a lot more on the sound. The subject matter of this project is, it's weird, and I want to talk about it. It's very hard to put a finger on one thing that consistently appears on here, but from what I can gather, Kid A is meant to be more like a state of mind. It's meant to be more like an atmosphere than to have any real meaning. Delusion, exhaustion, depression, paranoia, amnesia. And it just sounds like that, as bad as that sounds. Everything in its right place feels like a fever dream. Given the track's name, it really doesn't feel like everything is in the right place. It's disorienting, it's glitchy, it's digital, it's just very weird. Tom repeats, "Yesterday I woke up sucking a lemon. Yesterday I woke up sucking a lemon. There are two colors in my head. There are two colors in my head." As he has backing vocals here of his own voice. At some parts they sound like some weird howls. At some parts they sound really scary like imaginary voices, and at some parts they sound wobbly and weird. It's really something to pay attention to and to get immersed into, to get drawn into. You can stare at the Kid A cover art and listen to the sounds that are being produced, and you can really get immersed into this. You can imagine yourself in that landscape if you really lock in and focus on this album as a whole. Listen, the dark background with the cold, clear white color of the mountains, the perception of depth on the cover perfectly matches this space Radiohead is putting us in. That space, traveling through that space, is what Kid A is supposed to be. This album was getting worked on during the OK Computer tour. It really just seems like lightning captured in a bottle. They were struggling until, they tried something new. This is one of Radiohead's best intros that perfectly sums up the atmosphere and feel of the album. The next track, Kid A, sounds even trippier with these really cool drums, still completely digital. The melody of the song is pretty quiet, and in general, it's a low-key song. Tom's voice sounds even weirder than on the intro track. It's layered very weirdly. There's no auto-tune on it, but it still sounds like there is. It sounds wobbly and flat. Lyrics are all over the place, nonsensical almost, I would say. Talk about how he's slipping away, rats and children following him, standing in shadows. The album continues to be very visual, as it will throughout the whole album. It's as much of a visual experience as it is an audio experience. This track is pretty long, but the drums kind of draw you into it. As the song develops, there are pads and synths going on, making it sound a bit more cloudy and brighter. Kid A perfectly transitions into the next track, the national anthem, which, could be maybe the national anthem of this place that we're in, this kind of world that Thom Yorke has made. It has a guitar which sounds badass, might I add. We feel like everything is in our control, banging drums, but there is an odd moments of just random noises. Horns playing, it can be very weird and disorienting. Eventually, as Thom starts singing, it becomes a bit more clear. He takes the front stage. His vocal sounds sort of high-pitched, kinda tinny. I can even see why someone would find them annoying, but I just find it to be really cool. The lyrics, everyone is so near, everyone has got the fear, it's holding on. I really don't think this means much. It just sounds kind of like nonsense. It's just there to create imagery and just to sound cool, which it does, and it does that very well. A flat sounding brass instrument comes in and makes the track more groovy, jazzy, but in its own way. It keeps the electronic feel. As it gets more cluttered and Tom starts to scream, "It's holding on." You feel like the track is closing in on you, but you also want to dance to it at the same time. It's a nice vibe, which I didn't think I would be saying today. Truly feeling like the national anthem of this world that we're in. But as the track nears its end, we're met with an uneasy feeling. There's a section that just sounds odd, getting us ready for what's about to come. We feel like we're getting sucked out of the track through a TV, and we enter How to Disappear completely. There's an acoustic guitar, there's some clarity, there's some type of droning noise playing quietly in the background. This loud noise pans through your ears. It sounds eerie and depressing. That's not me. I walk through walls, I float down the Liffey. I'm not here, this isn't happening. I'm not here, this isn't happening. Let's talk about Thom Yorke for a second and the meaning of this song. He wrote this while on the OK Computer tour. He felt stressed and anxious about performing, writing new music and writing a new album. But they had just released OK Computer. There is a massive expectation from the label and from the fans to deliver and make something just as good or better. Thom is fed up of touring. He's sad and he wants it to be over with. The night before performing at Glastonbury, the world's biggest music festival, he has dreams of floating down the Liffey, a lake in Dublin. As the tour goes on, they try to work on new music, but nothing is clicking. Thom is sitting at his hotel repeating to himself, I'm not here, this isn't happening. That is the meaning of the song. That's based on a true story and it's what inspired this song. It's extremely sad and the saddest song on the album so far, and one of the saddest in their discography. Thom's vocals are not that loud, but they're very clear compared to the previous 3 tracks. They sound human. That's because this song is human. It's just a representation of how dark the human mind can get when stressed and feeling an overwhelming amount of pressure. Feeling burnout, basically. There are synths that get introduced throughout. The string instruments get louder. The song actually gets really loud. Thom gets louder, convincing himself that he's not here. Maybe this Kid A place, the universe that Kid A represents, is what was his escape from the real world. This is what it sounds like. Of course, there are still bad thoughts, but this world of Kid A is not the real world. It's something else. It feels like the dark sounding noises are gone. The fogginess is gone as it all sounds clear again. Thom is using this song to escape from the real world and his problems. The sounds fight to come back, but this song ends brightly and clearly. This 4-track run, everything in its right place, Kid A, the national anthem, and How to Disappear Completely is an achievement of music, and it's more than just music. It transcends the label and it creates imagery, feel. It's truly something special and magical and music at its peak. If it were to keep up this consistency, it would just be ridiculous. And yeah, if I'm being honest, at least in my opinion, it doesn't. Optimistic and In Limbo are good songs, but they do sound a bit more like conventional Radiohead, which still isn't conventional at all. So yeah, I still like these songs, but I just want to talk about the big highlights on this album if I'm being honest, so I'm gonna do that. One of the most eerie and fascinating songs on this album. The drums are digital, they sound like white noise, just going in and out, they're punchy, and it's another track that feels like the mountains on the cover. The mixing on the song is incredible. As we are building into the song, there's a weird shaker thing that comes into the right ear. Eventually it fades out and Thom comes in, basically talking about nonsense, I think, I'm being honest here. People like to say he's talking about politics, which I can also see, but I think he's really just trying to paint a cool image. I'll laugh until my head comes off, I'll swallow till I burst. Try to imagine that last sentence, swallowing but your ears are blocked, feeling like you're gonna burst. It's a really cool thing to try and visualize along with this trippy song. Thom sings over this, which I think makes for a nice contrast. He's an amazing singer, which works incredibly well. But then, yeah, we get to the climax of this song. The main melody is sucked right out of the track. New percussion gets added and it's the hypest moment on the whole album. The percussion is in the left ear, the drums just keep going, there are these random electric hits that happen. Thom Yorke is yelling practically, Ice Age coming, Ice Age coming. This is really happening. The main melody comes in again, the percussion keeps going in the left ear. Thom introduces new vocals in our right ear. He sings the chorus, hear him aloud, everything, all of the time. There's a whole 2-minute outro here. It's basically just cool sounding bits and bloops, if you'd like to call it that. Still, this song is a highlight in Radiohead's discography and a song that I really love. But there's one more track that I really want to talk about. In my opinion, one of their saddest sounding songs in their discography, if not their saddest sounding song. This painfully sad melody gets played as the song starts. The organ sounds lifeless. It sounds like it's being roughed up and like it's barely working. It sounds so numb, and I'll say it again, lifeless. You can even hear the clicking. I don't know what organ they used for this or what they did to make it sound like that, but I'm glad they did what they did. This is why I think there's no objectivity in music. This is such a simple melody. It's one instrument, nothing is going on production-wise, but it's just touching and amazing. We have Thom's saddest lyrics on the whole album. Red wine and sleeping pills, help me get back into your arms are the first lines on here. He's talking about how he belongs in a dark place. His writing is so distant and just not pitiful at all. I've seen people say it could be about his fans, lines like stop sending letters, letters always get burned, I think you're crazy, and so on, which very well could be the case. But this kind of seems like a letter from Thom Yorke. As Thom sings the chorus of the song, a harp gets introduced, creating one of the most beautiful sounds Radiohead has ever made. The sound is so wide, the harp is spread throughout the soundscape. It's hauntingly beautiful. We get quiet vocals that sound a bit ghostly. It's very emotionally powerful, and then it just cuts Everything gets sucked in. We're left with just the organ melody, and Tom says, "I will see you in the next life." And that's the last line we hear from him on the whole album. This is pretty much the outro of the album, aside of the untitled track, which is pretty much just a continuation of this. The note he hits here is really touching, and I feel like it's one of the best songs Radiohead have ever made, and is my pick for the most underrated Radiohead song, even though a lot of people still like it. But yeah, that's Kid A. Kid A is a world created inside the mind of someone who's struggling with pressure and being overwhelmed. It has glimmers of hope with a big layer of sadness and restlessness over it, with light beaming out in moments. It's electronic and not conventional. It's a journeying and not just sound. It's a form of escape from responsibilities in a world where the cloudiness carries over. It's the inside of a mind of a cluttered and disoriented person, but there's a certain beauty to it. It's art at its prime. I'm gonna do a video for In Rainbows as well, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Also follow my Twitter, it's gonna be linked in the description. And I hope you've enjoyed my review of Kid A. I put a lot of time working on this and writing this, so that would be appreciated if you leave a like and subscribe. But yeah, I guess I'll see you guys next time. Peace!